Good morning, everyone. My name is Katia Giri. I'm the host of Creative Mornings in Munich, and I'm so excited to see so many of you with us this morning. I hope that you got yourself some coffee, that you're ready for this really exciting session on the topic of promise.
This talk is the first talk of 2020, and I have the honor to introduce to you our first speaker for the year. And as the topic is promise, there's a few things for this year, because last year was not so promising, maybe in the beginning. And Maxi is going to present this topic in a lot of aspects. Like, isn't the promise always also promising? She's promising big brands to become big because she hosted over 2,000 events and shows, and she knows what is promise. And I'm really curious to learn about it. And I would, without further ado, just hand it over to her to speak about her experience and what she's promising every day for her clients. Maxi?
Yes, good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor. And yes, I hope that I can tell you something which will be exciting, which will be interesting for you, where you can learn a bit from. So yes, as Valen's already mentioned, well, last year wasn't promising at all, but I would like, as he already said it, I would like to tell you a bit more about my life as a moderator and the many promises that I have to fulfill every day. So first of all, when I got this topic, the first that came in mind was, isn't a promise also always promising? And first of all, I would like to share with you a moment of my life in January 2019. So for this, I have to share my screen. Let's give it a try. Here we go. So what you can see here is a huge art Deco Hall in Lisbon in Portugal. So it's the evening of the grand opening. It's a gala night, the Asia Pacific Dealer Conference of BMW. And I promise, I never had the chance to host such a huge and groundbreaking event so far. So the hall, as you can see, is decorated all in white with a 360-degree stage in the center. And the guests, well, the guests are super important dealers and customers from BMW. And then the show starts. And the audience, and me too, by the way, are blown away by a 3D projection of lights that change continuously and match perfectly to the music. And all of this is displayed on the tables, the stage, even the walls. It really felt like a fantasy film for me. And in the middle, as you can see, the biggest and coolest stage I ever had the honor to stand on and perform. Yes, and then, spot on. Me alone on this stage, and here we go. Here comes the moment that was in so many ways so promising for me. The very first moment standing there on stage, waiting for my cue to start, forgetting all the fear of failing, all the nervousness that I definitely felt, the nervousness that overwhelmed me just a minute before, and the deep certainty, yes, I'm exactly in the right moment, in the right place on earth. So yeah, you have to know, I'm doing my job as a moderator now for 10 years, more than 10 years. I'm presenting premium events. I'm hosting web TV shows for premium brands such as the Deutsche Telekom, Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, Siemens. I'm working for TV stations such as Sky, ProSieben. I'm a moderator for the famous FC Bayern Munich. So yes, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but there on stage in Lisbon, in Portugal, something happens. I never, really never before felt this kind of promise to myself. And it was really an outstanding experience for me. So, well, most people have stage fright, and maybe that you think now something like, oh, well, she stands on big stages, which is, well, kind of super cool, but personally, I'm afraid I will never be able to do that. Well, I tell you something, you can. Yes, of course you can. And well, I hope you are motivated this morning. Yeah, we're having a creative morning together. And if not, if you're still a bit tired, be aware that a promise can be a really good motivation. So here is my first promise for you. During this session, I help you to become relaxed, self-assured while talking in front of others. The secret behind it is the hosting technique. It brings a presentation to life. You can put a lot of effort and a lot of power into a presentation, but with the right technique, when you do it lightly, then you bring it to float. A good presentation is only as good as it's presented. Wrong words and the result can be disastrous. I think the ultimate aim is always to break the standards for unforgettable memories. May it be that you're waiting now that something happens? Well, it's totally okay, because I just made a promise to you, right? And you, by the way, with your participation, you also made a promise to listen to me. Okay. As you probably know, we all making promises every day. You make promises every day, your whole life. As a kid, you promise your parents to be good. Well, later at school or at university, you promise yourself to get good grades, to get a good job, to buy a nice car and a nice house. When you get a job, you promise your chef to fulfill your tasks. And after many, many years in your job, you promise yourself to finally start enjoying your life as soon as you retire. Do you notice something? The problem with these promises and all this self-motivation is the if-then thinking. Once I've made a career, I'm happier. Once I earn more money, then I'm motivated. And finally, when you retire, many of us realize that they have broken most of their promises and that they would do many things differently if they would be young again, right? So what would you do differently if you could start again from the very beginning? What would you do differently if you were young again? Well, many people say they would risk more. So what have you risked so far? Many people say they would have loved to live their dreams more. Well, it's your choice always, every day. For example, you can promise yourself to choose the apple instead of the chocolate to live healthy. It's a good idea, right? To live healthy. And now think of the moments when you're lying on your couch, watching your favorite TV series on Netflix, and then you have to choose between the apple and the chocolate again. This is the moment that you realize what Boris Johnson already said. It's easy to make promises, but it's so hard to keep them. I'm wondering, we know it in so many ways, so often, so much better. But so often, we simply don't want to keep our promises. So why is it? When I was young, I worked as a TV producer. I worked 40 up to 60 hours per week for a huge international production company. Before I started there, they promised me that I could make films from all around the globe and that I could also work in front of the camera. Well, I love traveling and I always wanted to become a famous TV presenter, but instead of doing all this, They let me work as a line producer, so I did nothing else than sitting with a cutter in a dark and small room in front of a computer. I did the exact opposite. So they didn't keep their promise, and I felt totally lost in my job. I was so disappointed. So, well, guys, today it's Friday morning, and here is another promise. I promise you that a morning exercise helps you to start your day fit and motivated. So please shake your head right now in this way if you feel that having fun at work makes you motivated. I can see you guys. So, yeah, right. Okay. So yeah, it's true. If you have to force yourself out of bed in the morning and force yourself to work, that something is fundamentally wrong, right? And it didn't matter how much money my own job generated these days in this huge and fancy TV production company. I very soon went always to work with a bad feeling in my stomach. So ask yourself, have you promised yourself at a certain point of your life to find a job that you love? Do you love your job? Yeah. Well, I didn't. So I promised myself to start a new career as a moderator. And this is what happened 11 years ago. So I did so because I think whatever you do, it has to mean something to us. This is important, right? But it has to mean something for us, not for others. This is perhaps the most important point. And today I'm a TV and web TV presenter, I'm an event presenter, I'm an event host. And I hosted more than 2,000 live events and shows all over Europe so far. So this is what I love to do. And it means something to me personally. And today I promise you that I'll help you to become relaxed and self-assured while talking in front of others. So, well, how does it work? For this, I have to go into the presentation again. To show you this. And this is my first advice. Have a vision. Have a promise for your life. Do you have a big picture? Take me literally here. Do you have a picture for yourself, of yourself, where you think, whoa, okay, this is cool. Where you get bright eyes. Dream big. Set your goals and take action. This promise of your life is the basis for your success while speaking in front of others. So be self-assured of what you want, have fun, and live your dream. My second advice, it happens. Yes, that's for granted. So if you can't change it, promise yourself to make the best out of it. So what are you doing if things go wrong? Well, my first job as a presenter was for a local radio station during the Art Cologne. It's a famous art festival in Cologne in Germany. And imagine the situation. You go live and you have to present and explain a huge egg. Yes, an egg was kind of an art installation. You could even get inside of the egg, lie inside the egg, and then it closed. And then the producer said, Maxi, you're going live in 3, 2, 1, and go. Well, I have my cards, I'm prepared, I'm self-assured. So I was just at the beginning of my career and I was so convinced of my talents that I saw myself already hosting the really big TV shows, you know? And then it took only 1 second to destroy all that. Take me literally here. No one told me that my voice could be heard in the whole hall. I start talking and I hear myself for the very first time from the loudspeakers with a slight delay. That's enough for me. That my mind starts spinning and my heart's racing from one moment to the other. I'm so nervous. But, well, somehow, thanks to my notes or my cards, I managed to do my job. I climbed inside this huge egg. The egg closes, and then something happens that I never expected. It's all dark inside the egg, and I can't read my notes anymore. This darkness in the egg seems oppressive. In this moment, I can feel my heart racing again. I'm so afraid of failing, and I realize that I won't manage to do my job here. Breath, yeah, my breath is like your breath at this moment. It's coming in gasps, and my body begins to sweat. It's the worst, really the worst experience. I simply wanted to die. Can you imagine how this felt in this very special moment? Hopefully you never experienced something like that on stage or while talking in front of others. So what happened then? Well, of course I didn't die, but I did something else. I stopped speaking right in the middle of the sentence, which is not the best idea while you go live on the radio. So it was not nervousness anymore that we are talking now about. It was pure panic. So, well, I survived it somehow. After some time, the egg reopened. I climbed out of it, and I tell you, I was so ashamed. Everybody would make fun out of me because I really screwed up. What a ridiculous dream that I had, that I could become a moderator. Well, can you imagine what happened then? Nothing. They understood my stage fright and thought that the connection of my microphone was simply lost inside the egg, so they started to play music again, and they went on with their show. That's it. So in this moment, I realized, even if I fail, the world keeps turning around. It's not the end. I totally messed it up, but instead of giving up my dream and not becoming a good presenter, instead I could have, I don't know, could have become a good teacher or a good secretary or whatever. But instead of this, I learned from the situation that unexpected things can happen always during a presentation, and none of it will kill you. The worst moment of all had so much power because it gave me self-confidence, and today I can deal with, let's say, nearly all conditions on stage. So, well, what I can say so far, shit happens. Making mistakes helps you to learn and to become self-assured. It's okay to make mistakes also during a presentation while you talk in front of others. And my next advice, promise yourself to stay focused. So, do you know that you have to hold a presentation and a colleague made a promise to you that he would take care of something and then he didn't? The failure now falls back on you during your presentation. So how do you react? Probably angry, because now you have to justify yourself. You're disappointed until you trust your colleague the next time. It will certainly take a while. A promise is a promise and will not be broken. So perhaps you know this little nice quote from Talmud. Take care of your thoughts because they will become your words. Take care of your words because they will become your actions. Take care of your actions because they will become your habits. Take care of your habits because they will become your character. And take care of your character because they will become your destiny. So it all starts with your thoughts. And what I would like to do with you right now, I would like to do with you an experiment. What I would like to ask you is sit now on the edge of your chair. So the backrest doesn't need you anymore, okay? And close your eyes now for 20 seconds. Okay, I have a timer here. And our goal is to stop thinking for 20 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. That's it. Okay, guys, who thought you can open your eyes again? Good job. But who thought of you? How long are 20 seconds? Huh? What I can cook for dinner? I want another coffee. So why are we doing this? What is it good for? How can we be focused and hold a presentation if we can't even concentrate for 20 seconds? So we are what we think. Your thoughts influence also the quality of your speech. So here's my advice. Before you start your speech and your presentation, don't panic, okay? Take a short break, just 2-3 minutes of silence, mute your smartphone, don't answer emails, and just breathe. Concentrate on your breath, how you inhale, how you exhale. Calm down and become focused again. And this exactly is also a promise that I make to you. This little exercise will help you to become a better presenter and a better speaker. So, and here's my next advice. Promise yourself to train your skills. So, if you want to speak on stage in times of Corona, perhaps on an online meeting, it makes totally sense to train your voice and your speech for your presentation. Only good preparation makes a good moderation. So my neighbors must think that I'm a bit strange because they see me very often talking to myself, because there is a huge window which goes directly onto the street, and there I normally stand in the middle of the room and talk to myself during my preps. So, well, as you might mention, I'm talking to myself very often, not only there, also inside my car, I don't know, in the bathroom, under the shower. And fortunately, there's no window inside my shower. Whenever I can see a chance to do my preps. So this is the way how I learn my text parts and my speeches. And here's also my next promise that I would like to make. Go into a room, lock it, and train your voice and your text while talking to yourself. So if you do this, then you will become perfectly prepared for your speech in front of others. And there are, here we go now with 2 of the easiest exercises in the world to train your voice. First, try to imitate what you hear on TV or on the radio. It might be a little bit embarrassing in the beginning, but when no one else is inside with you in the room or inside with you in the car, it can become really fun. So try to imitate the advertising that you hear on the radio while driving from one point to the other, where you're driving to work, for example. And secondly, use the audio messaging from WhatsApp to practice speaking. So really, really easy exercises to train your skills. And here's my 5th point, which is probably the most important one. Keep your promises. If we get into a moral dilemma with our promises, it is mostly because at the moment we made the promise, we could not have known that the world might look very different when the time comes to keep it. So what about your commitment if something comes up? We often think that it isn't so bad to keep a promise. And we justify this by saying that the consequences are not very negative. When I promise myself to train my presentation skills every day for 10 minutes, and then I leave one day out because my best friend invites me for lunch and it takes longer than expected. And then after coming home, my favorite TV series is going to start, which I prefer to watch instead of training my skills. And not keeping my promise is, probably of minor negative consequences. But this does not justify not to keeping the promise. After all, this has negative, perhaps only weak consequences, but it can also happen that my failure to keep my promise has serious consequences because there are no other people who can compensate for the whole thing. So you can only rely on yourself on stage. It's also a promise that I can make. And during a live event, there is no second chance. If you fail, the consequences could be disastrous. So don't make promises that you can't keep. Sometimes you make a promise that you can't keep in the hope that the course of events will somehow allow you to keep the promise. Well, basically, however, this approach is, in my point of view, dishonest. Once you've made a promise, it's important to remind yourself of your promises. It is important not to overlook or even forget, any promises made, especially when you have not followed up on a promise in a timely manner. It can happen that you lose sight of what you have promised. It happens out of sloppiness, perhaps, but is basically, in my point of view, also a sign of disregard for the person to whom you have promised something. So if you now remember my first advice, have a vision, have a promise for your life. This promise of your life is the basis for your success while speaking in front of others. Be self-assured of what you want and live your dream. This promise that you make to the most important person you know is a promise that you make to yourself. So don't make promises to yourself that you can't keep. The consequences are always disastrous. So 11 years ago, I promised myself to become a moderator. And was it easy to get there? No, not at all. I permanently compared myself with other hosts and with other presenters. So how do they do their job? Do I have to do it in the same way? Perhaps you have the same experience in your job. So luckily, I more and more broke away from this idea. Like an onion that you peel. I don't compare, I don't battle myself anymore, or at least way less. I just ask myself, what do I enjoy? So promise yourself to be authentic. As kids, we all dream we could fly as high and as far as possible. Well, with the promise I kept for myself, I figured it out, sort of. Today, I'm an MSc and I can present nearly every complex line of business. And let's go back to Lisbon. Here's the promise that I keep and maintain since that day there on stage in Lisbon. I promised myself to be mind and bodyguard for my interview guests, to be the basis and impetus for pioneering ideas, a creative motivator, a reliable partner, a point of reference on stage or in the studio as a source of ideas, inspiring and inspired, respectful, attentive, and sales-oriented. This is my mindset and my biggest promise. So if you find a promise that is as important for you as mine, for me, in my opinion, this becomes the most promising promise on earth. It makes your life so much easier. And here's one very last promise for you. You won't leave your body alive, that's for granted. But until then, I wish you lots of kept promises and a lot of success while talking in front of others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maxi. We can all clap virtually. You can unmute yourself if you want to, but I just want to say thank you so much. I hope that this was inspiring for everyone in the room as much as it was for me. Thanks a lot. I would like to open it up for a discussion. So if you have any kind of questions, guys, you can simply unmute yourself and ask question to Maxi, and let's get the discussion juices flowing. Anyone wants to ask the first question? Who wants to break the ice? Because otherwise I have a question for you, and maybe Maxi, this can be the first one while the rest of the community are preparing their questions. You know, it has happened, I guess, to everyone in the room that the situation that you described, you know, when you're on the stage, you have to present and then you have a blackout and you want to panic. What would you...
It was pure panic.
It's pure panic, and like the more you panic, the worse it gets. What would be your recommendation in situations like this? Should we, you know, let's say the same as you described, you know, when you kind of stop in the middle of the sentence, you can't even just fake it that you, I don't know, should you start coughing? Should you, do you have any suggestions for that?
So the best suggestion that I have is what I already told you. Shit happens. It's for granted, so don't panic if it happens. When you hold a presentation, perhaps during a meeting, and I don't know, you forget what you want to say, for example, there's no need to panic. There's definitely no need to panic, and this is what you have to have in mind. There's never you have to panic. The only thing that you should have in mind is that you are a human being as the other guy sitting there in front of you, and everyone understands. If you have stage frightened, if you forgot a sentence, for example, and the best way to solve this problem is to speak about this problem. And this would have been also a good solution for me in this situation. But unfortunately, I was so young and unexperienced, and it was one of my first possibilities to present me and a topic in front of others. So, well, it would have been great if someone would have told me, well, if you panic, speak about it. This is the best way to solve the problem. If you forget your words, if you forget what you want to say, speak about it. Oh, sorry guys, now I lost my cards. Where is it? Can I just give me 1 second and then we can restart, something like that. So talk about your problem. This is my recommendation, and don't panic.
Cool, thank you. I think it's a very good one. Any questions? Any other questions?
Well, maybe
So
for
I
myself.
have a question for the audience. Perhaps someone is interested to answer it. So I would love to know, is here someone who is really interested in, you know, or who normally talks in front of others, or who is stage frightened?
Everyone.
Everyone.
But isn't it also sometimes good? I mean, because I mean, I experienced that, and then I spoke to a person about it who was lecturing about speeches, and I said, I'm always so nervous, and he said, every good actor is nervous before they go on stage.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. There's a little difference between this nervousness, which is good, which makes you, you know, full of adrenaline, of good adrenaline, which makes you focused, and this little part, this I don't know, it's just this part which you can put on top, and then it's too much. So I'm still nervous before I go on stage, and before I have to perform, before I have to perform here in front of you. It's my first keynote I ever had to hold. It's something completely new for me. Normally, I'm the moderator, and I only present the topics, and I'm not talking about topics so much deep. I was also nervous before I started here. But I think what helps is to realize that being nervous is also a part of you. Everybody is nervous before he has to talk in front of others, because he's in the focus of the others and he can be judged in a good or in a bad way. And this is the risk that you take while talking in front of others. I think you have to have in mind that at least it shouldn't become something like pressure or too much pressure. You should always, it's always a mindset. Try to enjoy what you do. Try to find the part that you love, or what you at least like about what you do in this special moment, and try to focus on this. For example, if you don't like to talk so much, or if you don't like to stand so much in the focus while holding a presentation, a Zoom meeting, for example, then it makes totally sense to have the full screen of your PowerPoint in the focus, and you as a smaller part, it's on the side of the screen. So, which gives you the opportunity to focus on what you want to tell instead of focusing on you.
Yeah, true.
We just got a question in the chat, or let's say first is a comment from Alida, who says that if she really knows what she's talking about, she feels safe on stage and presenting. And I think this is definitely something that we can all recognize ourselves in, because if you memorize something by heart and you don't really understand or are not passionate about this, if you freeze, then of course you may have a problem like just remembering the exact words, but otherwise you can try and maybe improvise. But then there is as well Julia who said, really interesting advice, thank you. How to best deal with a promise you don't want to keep anymore because you feel it was unrealistic. You've pushed yourself so much that it has health impacts and you can feel you can't cope. So Maxi, what would you say to this?
So first of all, talking about preps, it makes totally sense. Yes, I already mentioned it. Only a good preparation makes a good moderation. And here's another advice while talking in front of others: make cards. Here, this is such a huge help also for your mind. And I wanted to show you this one here. It's from Bosch Rexroth. I hosted a huge web TV show, a global live TV session, and I have all my information that I needed. Here are my cards, which does not mean that I simply copy-pasted it, and went on stage. No, it was a lot of preparation. This is what most people forget when they book a moderator. They only see the, I don't know, 15 minutes or 1 hour of me on stage, and they don't see the lot of preparation that I have to invest before I'm actually on stage. So I don't show you only the front, I also show you the back, and there you can see it's chaotic. It's totally chaotic, and it's really colorful. And that's another advice. Normally, never do something like this. Never, because then you are lost on your cards. I'm doing my job for 10 years now, and this gives me the chance to write it down like this. There are also the answers of the experts written down there. So when you start presenting, then put only cues on your cards, and highlight it with the different colors. So this gives you the chance, when you look on your cards, to directly find what you are searching, because this is also kind of ridiculous, which, by the way, happened also already to me while I was hosting for Audi live events that I spoke and spoke and spoke, and then in the middle it was like, okay, fuck, what did I wanted to say? What comes next? So, and I looked at my cards, and I couldn't find the right information on my cards in this very special moment. 400 people sitting in front of me, watching me like, what's she doing? And I was like, oh my gosh. And you know what it is? I said, okay, sorry, guys. I lost my cards. I don't know I don't know what comes next. So they were laughing, but it was like, okay, I understand her. It could have, you know, it could have been the same situation right there on stage. So it was a funny situation. I found my sentence, and we went on with the show. So this shouldn't happen every day, right? But if it happens once or twice, who cares in the end? Mistakes shit happens. So you survive it. And yes, a good preparation helps you to solve also any problems on the stage. And a good preparation is also having your cards, your notes.
And then, so maybe let's do this the last question, I would say. So yeah, from Julia, who says how to deal, so what to do when you don't want to keep the promise anymore because you feel it was unrealistic, when you've pushed yourself so much that it has health impacts and you can feel you can't cope. So what do you do then? Do you keep the promise? Do you stop it?
So I think you have to make a difference between, is it a promise that you make for yourself or to yourself, or is it a promise that you make to others? Generally spoken, keeping a promise is a promise and will always needs to be kept. So, but I already told you, I found this quote from Boris Johnson, you know, the politician, the English politician. It's easy to make promises, but it's hard to keep them. And when you hear this from a politician, my first thinking was, okay, if he says this, why is it so bad to not keep a promise then, right? But in the end, I'm totally convinced that you always should at least try to keep your promise. Otherwise, don't start to do it, because you will be disappointed if you can't keep a promise to yourself. Have in mind the chocolate and the apple. And well, if you have to keep a promise to another person and you can't keep it in the end, the other person will be disappointed 100%. So try to keep your promises, fulfill your tasks, and which doesn't mean that I always keep my promises, but at least I try. And if you can't keep your promises, then try to find a solution that helps you or the other one to be happy again.
Good. Thank you so much, Maxi, for those words, for your talk, for being with us. Thank you everyone who joined today, who turned the cameras on as well. We love seeing your faces. We love connecting with you because, of course, I guess as you guys, we miss the live events where we could just mingle in a more personal way. So we are trying to make this as personal as possible. Just before we leave, I want to say save the date for our February talk. It's going to be a very interesting talk on the topic of Divergent. If you have not subscribed to our newsletter yet, subscribe. This is the way how you can get to know about the event, how you can get to know about the dates. And apart from this, thank you so much for being here with us. I am wishing you all a very great Friday and then happy weekend, guys. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maxi.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.